Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful time. You can call me Dragon, and today we'll be having a very long stream ahead of us with some BattleForge starting out. At least that is the plan, and we'll see how it goes. Hello, Toto. Alright, so nothing special planned for BattleForge. By the way, Toto, if you want to jump in, it's completely up to you. But I assume that you also can't, like, be in everyone's stream at the same time. I gotta say, though, Keo, it's always interesting seeing him play games that he's unfamiliar with. It's always a good time. I really hope that he gets around to actually playing it. We just need to push him a little bit, and then he'll get there, I think. But yeah, a longer stream ahead of me today at least, so it's not required that people stick around for like the entire day. But part of the reasoning is that if I don't have like longer streams in the weekend, it's gonna be pretty tough for people to catch me live, I think. At least that's my current presumption here. Because I did look at it, and it's like yesterday it was a week since the last stream. Oh, I remember. Put that in performance mode. But yeah, it had been like a literal week since my last stream, and that's all because of the business classes just wearing me down. So, but yeah, and we're on the right overlay. Everything's good. Okay. Well, for starters, I think just a couple of random PvE matches or something could do the trick. I got a mission to win the single player map defending Hope on standard difficulty or higher. So that requires me to play a very specific map. The question is which deck to use. So the way that I've been dealing with the fact that I need to summon shadow cards is that I basically took my main deck and just replaced the initial units with shadow units, including like a one-orb spell. But other than that, it's pretty much the same strategy. I've been trying out these army paladins, which is like one of the new units that the people working on Skylords Reborn has added, and it's like pretty fucking cool. So if we summon in some enemies here, and we send these guys in, you know, they are 2-orb units versus 1-orb units, but they've got this reflective armor ability where if you activate this, they basically take 100% of all the damage they deal to these guys in return. So they're slowly killing themselves. And just like that, an unupgraded group of army paladins beat off 3 groups of level 2 upgraded bandits, or whatever they're called. So I really like these guys. They've also got medium damage, which means that they're good against medium-sized units too. So yeah, pretty dope. There's also so this is like the thing about it. There's like 2 units from what I could see, which are within the Shadow Nature category, which are like the army units. One is the Army Phantom, which apparently was like in the base game, but I just never really don't really remember it. And then there's the Army Paladins, which was added by by the people reviving this game. So there's not really a lot of options for Shadow Nature combos yet, but I hope that we get more. The thing that makes it a little bit interesting or weird about the army stuff is that they're like also they've got like army related things in here, if I remember. Yeah, so the army monument, for instance, is that colorless legendary card, which you can only play once, but it means it allows you to get an orb of any color cheaper than if you were to build your 4th orb directly at a point, and you can build it anywhere, and it only requires 3 orbs. The only downside being that, of course, it takes up a slot in your deck, but means that you can get basically skip 3 orb units and jump straight to 4 orb units right away if you wanted to. Don't know if that's always the best strat for PvE skirmishes because you're on a clock, so you'd have to wait a lot longer in order to progress, but you know. I did also get my big wolf boy, my forest elder here. I'm still a little bit skeptical because I think I need to upgrade him before he gets like really good, since he gets so many increases, like 250 damage plus 500 damage plus 650 damage, right? And these are additive, so it's 250 plus 500 plus 650, which is more than 1,000, you know, damage, right? So it's like what, 1,300, no, 1,400 or something. Which would bring him pretty high up. But that was like a really expensive card to buy. Anyways, enough faffing about. I think I wanna do a shadow start. And it was Defending Hope, right? Yes, this map. Let's try and do it on advanced. What could possibly go? Oh. Yeah, okay. Hold on. Before I do that. Because this is like one of those maps you have to defend in. Thanks for the lurk there, Toto. So because it's one of those maps, oh, damn it, you have to defend in. I did just remember that this shadow start deck doesn't really have a lot of defensive structures. At least not many that are that great. Okay, then let's wait with that and just do a frost start, I think. Or maybe I should just do my main deck, honestly. Yeah, screw it. I'll do my main deck. I do have single shadow card in here. But before I start, I just need to go over the individual things I have in here because it's been a while since I used this. I don't think there's anything I need to change. Let me just check my fire start deck. Ah, yes, there's one thing I could do, but do I want to is the question. Do I want to? Okay, let me first see what kind of towers I have access to, just to see if I can make this map a little bit easier, because you do get attacked by air units. And the only anti-air defense I have on this in this deck is the Stone Hurler and the Necroblaster. And the Necroblaster requires enemies to die in order to be able to shoot. So, okay. I think I know what to do. Let's clone this deck. Main defensive deck. Okay, just main defensive. Just rename this to main so that I can edit this, no problem. So this card needs to go out and this card needs to go out. I think it's gonna be fine. The only question is if I need like a larger unit. But I was thinking I'm putting the Howling Shrine in instead. That's like my four building, so to speak. Right. I guess I don't need a tunnel exit for this deck, so take that out. Because then I can replace it with the Wheel of Gifts, which is what I was thinking mainly about. Since I did buy this recently, and you can have this give your units a passive buff, and you can have 3 of these, right? For each and every one of the buffs. Which is 20% damage increase, 20% resistance to all damage, and then life regeneration, which is, how much is it? 3% of max life points every 4 seconds, so This is like really good for large chunky units because the more health they have, the faster they also regenerate, which means in the, like, if you think about this backwards, it also means that your unit needs to take more damage, like enemy units need to deal more damage before like they actually circumvent this regeneration. Which is why it's not it's rarely like a good idea to have a lot of small units, because their hit points are distributed amongst so many individual things, and being a smaller size, they tend to be like prone to be knocked back by units like an aggressor or a magma hurler, for instance, making them completely useless almost. Not to mention that XL units will just walk over them like it's nothing. Right, so and they do damage doing this. They've got like no chance. Well, also because, you know, the hit point regeneration that I just mentioned is active, and the damage reduction makes it even stronger. Anyway, so I think that's it for buildings, but I do want to see what I've got in terms of 4 orb units. It can be pretty much any color except shadow, as long as it only costs one, like requires 1 orb of any color. So I could do a Tempest, I could do Ember Strike and Grimwine, but I can't do Batarial, for instance, or a Fire Dragon. Oh, I can also do 2 green orbs. That's also a thing I can do. So I can't do Abomination though, but I could technically do my Primal Watcher. This only attacks ground units, right? Yeah, only affects ground units. So this is like an anti-defense unit. I believe the Tempest is good against air, isn't it? Up. Units undazed and causes an explosion of ice that freezes up to 3 hostile units. Oh, it's one of those cards. So when you play this, this is actually like part spell, part unit, right? So if I summon this here, it just freezes units in place. Okay. But then it also has to be like grounded in order to attack, I believe. Yeah. And how is it whirlwind? Yeah, so this unit is like really good in combination with freezing spells, because it does 100% more damage towards freeze spells. But if you only have cold snap, then you might be that's not really grounds enough to do that. Something else I could also do is just add another free orb unit. I can't remember if the Razor Leaf does damage against airborne units. Let's see. It does. Awesome. I really like the Razor Leaf. It's a pretty fucking strong unit. They're also very expensive for free orbs. It's basically a 4 orb unit in disguise. And these being like these forced kin mean that if I had 3 of these and put them next to each other, well, actually I just need 2 at least. But can't really see it that well, but there's like a link between them, which means that they link up between each other and become stronger. So not only will they individually fire now, but they'll also shoot way more projectiles. So basically like a tower that can move around, which is really good for maps where you need to move your units. So I was thinking about using that one. Because it's mainly just air units that are the main concern. And I've been working on my green deck somewhere, this deck, which at the moment has these two units in here, which are both forestkin, so they'll also do the same thing. Right? So they'll link up, but you can also do it with buildings. And oh yeah, that's true. The Howling Shrine is can also link up to the link network, so all these units basically work together that way. Unfortunately though, in order to actually, like, if you improve them by upgrades, they can also gain more support by the link network, so though that being expensive, and this is something I forgot to upgrade because I couldn't. But yeah, even though that is expensive, it's also really good. I can go over my Elder deck at some point. It's not quite ready for use because some of the cards need upgrading, but meh, I digress. Let's choose the U, main defensive. I think we're pretty good. Let me just double check. Yeah. There's one thing I'm still on the fence about, which one I like better. So nature has a bunch of different healing spells, right? And I'm on the fence whether I like Equilibrium or Ray of Light more for my deck. Because the issue with Equilibrium is that it heals instantaneously, but it also how to say it? It feels underwhelming for the cost. And it's like so close to regrowth in comparison that if I end up having both of them at my disposal, I'll rarely end up using Equilibrium but when you get to 3 orbs, it's not really that necessary yet to get that amount of healing, and Ray of Light is a little bit cheaper. The issue with Ray of Light though is that this one heals over time, but it does it according to percentage of their maximum life points every second, so it's also got a limit on how much it heals, of course, but it does mean that if you have a lot of small units, since their hit point amount is also small, it takes a long time for them to heal up. Or rather, like, you know, you don't heal as much over, like, per second or whatever as a Magma Hurler, for instance. And more importantly, because it's over time, it's like locked in place, so you heal in that area, but yeah, meh. If your units move, they don't get healed, basically. Forfeiting most of the healing spell itself. For defensive deck, I think it's okay though.
Will try to destroy the 2 soul stones. Protect them at any cost. Move. Repel those attackers.
Alright, there are units at the beginning, I forgot. Spearmen, ooh la la. Actually, I should send these guys over there. I still feel that Wind Weavers are one of the best T1 units that exist. Another really good one is the Byron-based Nomad, just because of the health regen. It's like so fucking good. They are also expensive units to play though. It's like 75 power, so they're even more expensive than the Wind Weavers even. But they are swift units that are also medium-sized. And then if there's 3 or more in a group, they do gain health regeneration every single one of them. So if you get critical mass, the AI basically doesn't, like, spreads out their units too thinly, and they just never deal enough damage to take any of your units down. And because it's a 1-all red unit, it also means that you can use it in color combinations very well, because, you know, you're not like dependent on early game healing spells like green has. And you don't need to spend 80 power to use them either. Okie dokie. Do want to get those wells out there. Because this is one of those maps where they put a lot of extra power wells at your disposal, where is one of those situations where if you get it earlier on, you're better off, but it's also a little bit more difficult. We can change our spearmen at least so that they do medium damage instead, making them a bit better at taking out these Twilight Slavers. Run! Not quite fast enough. Get these guys back. But yeah, the fact that the Wind Weavers can hit 2 units at a time is pretty freaking good. Oh yeah, these are not the guys that explode. We're good, we're good. Of course, I don't have a 1 orb tower in this deck, so I'm kind of dependent on my units to help defend at the moment. Soon though.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Yep, that's kind of what the entire map is about. Let's get that blue orb so we can start building some towers. That's also why I built the walls though. Keeps them preoccupied. I mean, we do have some towers to begin with. They're just like, they are actually upgrades to level 2, so not completely trash, but they're not in the most favorable position either. Let's get a tower up there. Of course, there's this situation up here. I need some forward defenses if I want to get rid of these guys. There's a big dude over there.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Let's get some support up here because they do not have enough critical mass.
A power well is under attack.
Target marked. Get quick.
Okay, it's not completely critical down there yet. It was definitely one of those maps where
A lot of enemies coming from those buildings.
you get like
Destroying
a
them surely
stretched
eases the
fin
pressure.
very easily.
They're attacking a soul stone. Protect it.
Yeah, damn it. Why was the shortcut key for that X instead of C? Almost all the other abilities in the game are activated on the C button. Yeah, we need some aggressors. I cannot make do with these small dudes.
A power well is under attack. Enemies lay siege to your base.
Seem to remember that this map was pretty stressful.
Your forces are under attack. A monument is under attack.
Oh shit. Let's repair that wall when we can.
Rogan Kale and his group have arrived, but they'll never get past the twilight. Head north and cut a path for him.
Cut a path for him, okay.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Let's just get rid of the Wind Weavers. Don't need those anymore. Yeah, and these guys knock back those bigger dudes, so should be easier to deal with now.
The attacks are getting stronger. Be prepared.
Be prepared. Let's see if we can't get these power wells down south. Yikes. A lot of bad guys coming in here. And let's retreat for now.
A power well is under attack.
I was just about to say, are they gonna completely ignore this guy? This tower down there. Okay, let's get a fire orb. I think that is gonna require. Also, they started sending in flying units. That's what I was not looking forward to. Can we attack them from up here? Just barely.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Need more anti-air.
A power well has been destroyed.
No, not my fire orb.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Oh, these are still being constructed, eh?
A monument is under attack.
Let's get some of those bigger dudes.
Watch out! They're erupting from the ground.
Because this is a full-on
Monument has been
onslaught.
destroyed.
Take the soul stones until they are regenerated. I think first we just gotta like not die. And then we can like worry about taking out the bad guys. I hope. Blue. Frost.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Die.
Hurry. Send an army north to cut Rogan free. They'll attack soon. Make haste to mount a solid defense. A power well is under attack.
Let's try and clear out this shit down here.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
I guess a tunnel network could have been useful on this map. Get fucked. No time for you guys. Come home.
Enemies lay siege to your base. One of the buildings has been destroyed. That should ease the pressure. Don't slack on your defenses to your base.
Yep, tell me about it. We're getting kind of pummeled over here. Yeah, I don't have any anti-air over here.
Protect it.
Said that was the bad thing. Send our elementals over.
They are attacking a soulstone. Protect it.
I know. I know. Like a single unit. Can't even rebuild a wall yet. But I think if we take out this base down here, they might be off.
The power well is under attack.
Capable of doing a little bit better.
A power well has been destroyed. Enemies lay siege to your base. One of the buildings has been destroyed. A power well has been destroyed. Don't slack on your defenses, though.
They're attacking all my power wells again.
Are under attack. A power well is under attack.
You bastards.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Yeah, these guys break buildings like they're made out of paper mache.
A monument is under attack. Watch out! They're erupting from the ground.
Does seem like I need to build towers here in order to not lose these power wells. Otherwise, the enemy just seems to retaliate with new units every single time I go away.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
I'm surprised this has been left alone, but I think it's because of all the artillery we have. Where even is the fourth orb?
A power well has been destroyed.
Is there even a fourth orb? Oh yeah, they are still coming from the back parts. So even though I took out the bases, it doesn't mean that they don't come from that direction. That's true. Don't let this guy do its thing. There we go. Oh, there it is. It's up at Rogan Kale's position.
A power well is under attack. One of the buildings has been destroyed. That should ease the pressure. Don't slack on your defenses, though.
Don't slack on your defenses, though. This is a healing well, right? Basically, yeah. Those things can eat a giant bag of
They are
dicks.
attacking a soul stone. Protect it.
Oh, they did. It's fine. Oi, get out of here. Almost. One more go. These motherfucker. Clear. Hello, Rogan. Rogan? And a green orb is the last. See you later, bitches. He's just leaving his guys behind. What a dick.
Rogan's through. Well done.
And then we need to protect the place for like 10 minutes.
Make sure your defenses are solid. They'll attack soon.
Yep. Don't have to tell me twice. Good thing I didn't rush into actually doing like claiming and this place and getting Rogan out. It's been like such a long time since I played a lot of these missions, so
A power well
every
is
time I
under
do play them again, I tend to forget how like what the objectives are for, or like there we
One
go.
of the buildings has been destroyed. That should ease the pressure. Don't slack on your defenses, though.
Those second you
The
defenses
buildings are
though.
all destroyed. Now our enemies can only
Building
come from
destroyed.
those caves.
Yep, that can also be pretty terrifying in its own right. Oh, we can make Wheel of Gifts now, so that should help us a little bit. Question is if how much of this I'll even be able to put down before we get attacked. Because Razor Leaves and Giant Worms are really expensive units. Oh, those were destroyed again, eh? Well, I guess we can go down and at least try and get some more power wells. Boop, boop, boop. Gift of Juvenescence, thank you very much. Don't remember if I need to defend that well down there. If it'll get attacked again. These units are such a fucking pain in the ass.
Enemies lay siege to your base.
Well, rip those guys, I guess. Maybe should have closed the gate. Well, can't always be kept in hindsight. Okay, let's see. All the buildings that need repairs. Yeah, the power wells in the middle are pretty much toast. Good. Should I try and build a Howling Shrine? Because it's like, you need to defend such a large area that I don't even know if it's worth building on this map, honestly. Given how expensive it is and all that. The Hammerfall artillery seems a little bit more viable. Ah, fuckers.
A power well is under attack. A power well has been destroyed.
Of course they would. Well, that kind of answers that question, I suppose. Wonder if it's going to be the same for up here. Because this is the issue. They get like close to the buildings and then they just die and take the buildings with them. God fucking damn it. How about we just put our elementals down here for now then? Maybe that ought to do the trick. Yeah, these are empty now, so if I don't make use of these outer power wells here, like protect them, I have no source of power anymore. So that's the thing, like, yes, I can put down defensive towers and all that, but by doing so, I also invest all that power into stationary defenses. Which means that, you know, if you're getting attacked more on one side of the base than the other, then you're screwed. Well, not really screwed, but you know what I mean. And just in these free Wheel of Gifts, that's already 600 power. And a well has like 600 power in it, so it's literally an entire power well's worth just invested into passive buffs. Though for all your units, for all the map, for all time. Which is why these are so fucking strong. Especially in co-op, because it, you know, affects your teammates' units as well. So, since you have a limited amount of cards that you can put into your deck, if you're in a multiplayer map, you do have that, what do you call it, benefit of divide and conquer, so you can, like, have just one player build those buildings and everyone gets the benefits. Oh shit. Well, that's not good.
Lay siege to your base.
We will have to deal with this guy. I can probably keep him in stasis indefinitely by alternating between freezing and Curse of Oink. Because this is 20 seconds. And this is like... Yeah, I can keep him in... not quite. Okay.
A monument is under
Not
attack.
quite. The second time it didn't last nearly as long as the first. But we might as well, because using our spells just puts that power into the void power pool, so it's not like it's lost. What is lost though is, I believe, if a power well is destroyed and you have to rebuild it, that power might not return. I don't quite think I've ever really figured out how that works. I know for the buildings that you build, you definitely get it back. Hasn't gone completely crazy. Okay, never mind. These guys are down here screwing me up. This is where the tunnel network would be really useful. Or like reinvesting my fire elementals into larger units like my worms, I suppose.
A power well has been
I
destroyed.
might also... Yeah, I can't get past that gate. It's completely blocked off by buildings now. So we're getting attacked by like a final wave or something. Oh, that's definitely something. That is definitely something. Good thing I have a lot of anti-air defenses. Got the Howling Shrine, but... and the Stone Hurlers, but the Stone Hurlers do way less damage than the cannon towers.
Just a little longer.
You just have to survive. Just have to survive. Crap.
Our soul stones have regenerated. Unleash the wrath of the fallen. Let the spirits
Get
of ancient
wrecked.
things deal out true justice. I'm impressed, Skylord. You held hope long enough to save the soul stones.
Yeah. I didn't even need the Razor Leaves. Or didn't even get to use them. Use them, rather. They're really good siege units, though. For like a T-free or free old. Not really doing it for the cards, for the upgrade cards. More for this. Cool. Switch over to the shadow start. Let me just double check my mission. So I still gotta play some shadow cards. Win some campaign PvE matches. Okay. So it specifies campaign, which means that it can't be like a randomly generated skirmish. Win the 2-player map Nightmare Shot on standard or higher difficulty. Either I don't even know if I can do that solo. Ta-da! No! I need some help! Maybe later. Maybe later. Expend your power by using cards across any number of campaign PvE matches. Wait, did I just get some new missions? Did it just reset because... any number of campaign PvE matches or random... Yeah, so I think I just got some more missions now. Huh, okay. Impeccable timing, yeah, okay. I see how it is, I see how it is. Oh yeah, I also want to check out something real quick. Alright. So, if you play matches for 45 minutes throughout one day, you get like a 100 BattleForge point discount on any booster packs. But I was just curious to see if it carried over from day to day if you didn't use that discount, and it turns out that it doesn't. So if you ever consider if you should buy or not buy booster packs, yeah, just buy them if you don't have any particular cards in mind, I guess. Boop boop boop. Well then, it has to be a campaign map. I'm thinking, because I could do the first campaign map on expert difficulty, but then I probably need to use a different deck, so I'm not too keen on that idea. Let's just do it on advanced. This is probably like my most overplayed map though, but that's just because of how short it is and simple it is. I have a tendency to like we're away from the more complex single player campaign maps because they just tend to drag on for too long.
We found everything had changed, become
Oh,
twisted.
okay.
They attacked us like
Wild beasts. Yes. Now, I'm not particularly
We must help the others.
I'm not particularly fond of shadow-based cards. The whole sacrificial thing doesn't really fit my playstyle. So I'm literally just using these 1-orb unit and 2-orb units just to just for the sake of the objectives. God damn it. That wasn't fast enough. There.
Damn. We must reach the village to the east.
Wait, don't you retreat?
Sky Lords are with us.
You bastards.
They're calling reinforcements.
I guess the good thing is that the units are cheap as hell, but still. For instance, the skeletons here having this ability to increase their damage resistance by a whopping 50% is cool, but it also means that they die once the timer runs out. And because putting down cards without a nearby building gives them summoning sickness, it's not really my playstyle. I do like this though. This spell's pretty cool because you do have limited charges on your cards, and what this does is that you can use it to sacrifice like these skeletons here, and then it'll replenish charges on similar cards based on 2 different variants, because the card has 2 different variants. So there's this one which replenishes cards of the same orb, and let me just hold on, green. And then there's the other variant of offering, which does it based off of the unit size. So if you were to replenish a medium-sized unit, but it's only a 1-orb unit, you know, you could replenish the charge of... Yeah, I don't really have any in this deck, so this is why I'm not using that. But I could technically... Yeah, I could replenish my Dark Elf Assassins by sacking the Skeleton Warriors, I suppose. But I haven't quite gotten around to the point where I'm running out of charges yet, so... I think we're good. Get some of those army paladins, though. Make use of these guys and their reflective armor. Because I'm still dependent on 2-orb units that use the shadow stuff. Once we get into 3 orbs, this map is pretty much done and dusted. But I haven't used these army paladins yet in combat, so I'm curious to see how it actually works out. I don't know if I should sack the Nox troopers though, if that's like a good idea to keep them around. Because it could replace them with Dark Elf Assassins, but it's like medium versus small damage, but then having like dealing more damage if it's the Dark Elf Assassins. The units cost the same. They're the same, well, not even the same unit size, that's true. So maybe it is a good idea to keep both. But I guess the army paladins are basically stronger skeletons, like much stronger skeletons. And they weren't that, they're only like 10 power more expensive. Because they negate 100% of all the damage, and it reflects back to the enemies. I guess there is a cost associated, but 25 for that kind of ability, it's not really that expensive. I think that is doable.
Typical. More incoming.
One thing though I do, acknowledge, their ability probably won't be as strong as if they're not getting, if they're not getting attacked for 1, but it's also going to be less effective if you're getting attacked by oh, I didn't get to use it. But yeah, if they're getting attacked by smaller groups but larger units,
The best way out is always...
Oh, this is a mess. This is a mess.
Rage against the dying of the light.
This is fine. Just wanted to get rid of that tower. Or away from that tower. Oh shit. That's true, that blows up in our face.
We remember.
But yeah, more army units would be super dope. The other army unit that exists is also really cool, honestly. She can switch between ranged and melee mode. And when she's in ranged mode, her projectiles, like she throws spears at the target, her projectiles, they slow down enemy units. Drastically even. So not only do you slow them down when she's in range mode, but then as soon as they come into melee range, you can swap her into melee mode, and then she has like additional effects to help there as well. So it's pretty damn good. Okay, let's get this orb cleared down here. Probably didn't need those assassins. But we build them anyway. Get that red orb in just a moment. Actually, I think it's safe to do this.
With your shield or on it.
Just to get that void power back. Fire.
We remember.
See ya. Sacrifices must be made. And then when we get that, we build them up here for that 25% cost reduction. And the sad thing is, these two units are probably just as strong as the whole army we just had. But, you know, it's not just a matter of how much damage they do, but it's their abilities. Knocking back small and medium units. It's ranged, which also means it can attack flying units. And it's not like slowed down or anything. It doesn't need to go into siege mode. Nothing special about it. You know, it's just like order them to attack. No special abilities to speak of either. Sometimes it's just the simple units that are the better ones. Because once you have critical mass, nothing else really matters. Red does have that raptor-like thing that can go into siege mode, which is cool, but its Achilles heel are multifaceted. So one, though it is swift by like standard means, whenever you want to do ranged attacks you have to go into siege mode and then it just reverts back to normal speed. The idea being, I guess, that you can move in and out of combat, in and out of range. So you can move into position in the swift melee mode and then switch into siege mode to deal range damage, and if you need to move into a different position you switch out of range mode. But the problem is their projectiles, they don't explode on impact. They get put down as like a small bomb or something, and then some time passes before it explodes. They are considered siege units, so they do deal 50% increased damage to buildings. But it's like a bit of a mixed bag. They are not that great at taking out other units, but they can do the job. The most important thing about them is though that their attack range is ridiculous. They can attack almost twice as far away as a magma hurler, living up to the siege tag, if you will.
My spirit communes with yours directly. The mortals
See
cannot
here. Get 7 of these bad boys.
against this twilight curse. We've agreed to rally them in the city Hope. There, they can make a new beginning.
Ah,
We need
yes.
to help these humans pass the infected town to the north.
I forgot
and
this
across
part of the
old
strategy.
ground.
We have to delete the first one.
But
The
be
big
wary.
head mission.
This area swarms with infected.
Big head mission.
On the hill to the south is an army screaming stone.
Oh, yeah.
Will provoke the remaining infected to attack.
Exactly.
You have two
I forgot
options.
the part of this deck strategy is that once you get into free orbs on the fire thing, you want to destroy the first one. Oh, hey, Kyo. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Spoons is here as well. Oh my god. Hello. Welcome to. How did oh shit, what's the name of the game again? How did that go? Hold on. Wait, Arkham is here as well?
You're a fucking nerd. No one likes you.
They have billions. They have billions. That's what it's called. Yeah. You coming over here just to learn all my strats? Died a lot. Disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Still found it pretty funny that Toto kind of tried to roast you. That was pretty funny. I'm just doing like a bit of dailies here. But, well, assuming your time zone, you're probably going to bed. But again, like, I would be down to play this with some of you guys. I'm just doing like daily mission stuff. So this is literally the first PvE quest map. So this is the first map that you would probably also be up against. Though probably on default standard difficulty, not advanced. Into a crisp. Alright. Well, don't take it too harsh. Toto has had some interesting experiences with this game of her own right, so she shouldn't. Actually, is there an English version of that? Like, she shouldn't throw bricks when living in a glass house, or something like that. At least there's a saying in Danish that goes something along that line. Shouldn't throw stones if you live in a glass house, or sweep in front of your own door. I am running a multicolored deck of all 4 colors at the moment, where the initial strategy is just to put down some shadow units to get started and then eventually swap them out entirely. King gave Toto nightmares. Throw stones. Let's just I kind of hinted at it, but yeah, pro tip, remember to claim your mail. Don't just do what Toto did. I still feel sorry for you, because I mean, this is completely free to play and there's no way of buying cards for real money, so losing out on those initial cards is a pretty heavy blow. Basically all your quest rewards and such get sent to you through mail, so that could be either specific cards for clearing out certain objectives or entire booster packs worth of random cards. And if you don't claim those and just delete the mails to clear out your mailbox, yeah, you don't get those cards. And guess what Toto did? Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, she was kind of just thrown into it though. But Toto, if you're up for it, we can do a skirmish map after this as well. You did say yesterday, or was it actually the day before, that you might be less salty? Or maybe I just salted the wound now. See here, we should be able to afford this. A green orb, yes. She can take it. She can take it. I did tell her though that she should maybe consider not deleting future mails in case I do end up sending her something. Because you can actually send cards to each other as well, so although it's possible to reforge cards into that you don't want into something random that you might be interested in, You can also just send cards that you know someone else might want in your friends list, and you can just send them across. And Toto doesn't like certain colors in this game for some reason. She said that all the red units they look like savages, which fair point.
Praise the Sky Lords. The way is clear.
The way
Let's
is
move.
clear. So she insists on playing Frost and Shadow cards. But Frost is like, if you want to do mono Frost, it's really difficult when you start out, since their units aren't really that strong, and they rely pretty heavily on really expensive cards in order to work. Racist. Yes, kinda. So like the best tip is that when you're starting out, don't be afraid to mix and match colors, because you can use any combination of colors as long as the orb requirements are fulfilled, which understandably isn't necessarily the easiest thing to understand. Cold Sept. No. Toto Asian. Emotional damage. Yeah, you told me you were immune to that stuff by now. So the last point in this map is just to take out a Wrathgazer. So we'll just be preparing our units before doing that. It also just put down a wheel of gifts, which basically gives me a map-wide buff to all my units. Let's do our own version of a Wrathgazer. Might as well. Okay, this should be enough. So this one doesn't do direct damage, it just locks its gaze onto a unit like that and then slowly phases it out of existence. Then the amount of hit points that unit has sort of determines how long it takes before it is completely dissolved. So it's just a matter of putting a lot of units in here that are pretty chunky. Ah, yeah, no worries, Arkham. I can try and give you an explanation at some point after this map, maybe. Imagine playing Magic the Gathering on a Monopoly board. That's Cold Sept. Oh, really? I mean, there's a lot of, let's say, inspirations from Magic the Gathering here too, I would say. But it's also like got some pretty unique mechanics that threw Toto off completely. So knowing that Toto's played a couple of RTSs herself kind of says something. But yeah, this game was originally made and published by EA, and it was run as a always online service, and because it was monetizing the cards, yeah, they couldn't quite figure it out how to do that properly, so eventually they just shut it down, unfortunately. But it's been revived like over the last few years.
Fine work. You, my
And that's why we can play it now for free.
Meet me near hope.
The monster
Alright.
is defeated.
This map isn't too difficult. I mean, it is literally the first one. But I can show you how it works a little bit better when we get out of this, so... Just shy of 20 minutes, too. Okie dokie. So, first things first. Let me just redirect you guys that might be interested into the right place. Toto can't even beat that map because of terrible units. Disgusting. Oh wow. Yeah, then it's your strategy that's got trouble. So this is what Toto forgot or didn't understand. So when you see your mail up here, don't just click delete. Actually open them up and get your BattleForge points or your attached cards. Then you can delete them. So like for instance, because I did this achievement right now, I got an offering card. Yes, Skylords Reborn. So that's basically the name that they've taken onto this. So this is a fan revival, which is why there's no monetization of the game. You can just go on there, download it, and just start playing immediately. Completely free of charge. And they've basically got the whole base game working, and they've started expanding not too long ago, with one of the newest cards actually being these Army Paladins.
Army Paladins.
So they'll be working towards adding more campaign content and units as well to the game, which is really fucking awesome.
Through the ages.
So let's try and explain how this works. So BattleForge has two kinds of resources. On one end, you have these monument pedestals, and these are used for putting down your cards. Am I even? Nah, I'm not. Okay. Probably because that's like a simulated enemy. I think I might be able to do it over here. Yeah. So these can be built as either shadow, nature, frost, or fire. So think a little bit like Magic the Gathering, if you know that. And when we look at a card, in the top right, it'll show like the small circles. So that's the amount of orbs and which colors you need in order to play it. Which for the Primal Watcher means that you need 4 orbs in total, and 2 of them have to be green. Which means that for these Dark Elf Assassins, it's 1 shadow, and then the other one can be whatever. So when you build your second orb, for instance, if you start with shadow in this case, the second one could be green, allowing you access to green orb spells that require either 1 or 2 orbs, and one of them being green. Hey Loki, good morning. Just explaining how BattleForge works for those that are unfamiliar. And there are 3 different types of cards. There are units, buildings, and spells. And units are a little bit like what you'd expect from a card game. If you build them near your structures, they summon in just normally. But if you summon them, well, I guess I can't really display this here because it's in the Forge. But just take my word for it. If you summon it outside the range of a building, they'll summon in with Summoning Sickness, meaning that their HP is temporarily halved, and if they have any active abilities, they are unavailable for a time anyway. Anyways, so I should probably explain the resource. So the other resource is power, which you acquire through these power wells that are distributed around the map. And actually, Toto, do you want to do like a skirmish, or should I just do one real quick just to show it off? I could probably do one real quick just to show off how it works, because I think that's a bit easier to understand then. Let's just take my main deck. Yeah, I guess we can just, I can explain this first then. So this map here is basically all the different campaign maps, and the amount of like nubs or whatever you want to call them indicate whether or not it's a 1, 2 player, 4 player, or 12 player co-op map. All of this is co-op. And you also have these down here in the bottom right, which are skirmish matches, which are just randomly generated maps. So let's just do one of these. And for skirmish, you choose your own difficulty on the slider, and I tend to do difficulty 5 right now, and that's just because that's what I can sort of take on. These are time-based though, so you know, you gotta be able to actually do it within a certain amount of time. You can't just brute force it either. Toto got sick yesterday. Oh, okay, Toto. Take care. I'll see if we can't get to play when you get better, then I'll be looking forward to it. It's fair enough. So we're starting here, and to begin with, I prefer putting down some melee and ranged units in like a healthy balance, but you don't always want to like attack immediately. Bye, Toto. Because you do want to build up your forces a little bit. So I can use this to explain a little bit. So to the left of the minimap, you have these 2 numbers here. or 3 numbers, I guess. So the bottom one is your power well, like, resource combined. +3 meaning that every second or whatever you gain free power. The top one is called void power, and the amount you get varies depending on like how much is added to the pool. Every time you lose a unit, the invested power in that unit returns to the void power and slowly trickles back into your available power pool. So the same happens once you play a spell, this one costing 80 for instance. So if I heal these units, it adds that 80 to the power pool and it slowly siphons back. It's sort of like a mechanic where, I guess, when you use your spells, and if you use a lot of them in a short amount of time, you also get a lot of it back in return so you can keep playing new cards. So that's basically how the resources work. That's the TLDR version of it. To build power wells and orbs, you also need power, obviously. And the general gist is that you need to expand out to acquire these power wells, which are essentially like capture points, I guess. And then building more orbs and getting more power allows you to play more chunky boys that have all kinds of increasing effects. Which I guess is a decent time to explain how the units themselves work. So each and every unit, they have 2 stats. They have their hit points and their damage. And there's a lot of variations to these general rules, but the general gist is that they come in different sizes, okay? So for instance, if we look at a spearman, they do small damage and they have small hit points. Compare that to an aggressor, which is a large unit that does large damage. Now, why is that important? Well, it has an influence on how much damage you'll do to a unit, and it'll also have an influence on how certain abilities affect them. Actually, let's... Refineries in StarCraft? Which, exactly? I haven't played that much StarCraft, and it's been a while since I played StarCraft 2, so I don't know. Now you might wonder why I just sacrificed all my units. Well, I want to replace all those units with aggressors because they are a little bit chunkier, and that means that instead of spreading all the damage out across multiple units, I focus them down into like in fewer individuals. Capture points. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's just like a resource point. They are slowly exhausted over time, so you could also just see it as like a gold mine in Age of Empires 2. But because these aggressors are considered large units, they have another trait as well. If I remember correctly, large and XL units, they can just like walk over smaller ones and they'll be thrown all over the place. But these guys also have an extra effect on their standard attack, which is when they hit small and medium and large units, they get knocked back. Essentially completely, what do you call it? Staggering them, making them unable to retaliate. I love Curse of Oink. It basically just makes them transform into these pig-like units temporarily, giving me time to take down buildings and such. Though if I do attack them before, like, shortly after the spell is cast, they do revert as well. But yeah, these units are much stronger than the army than we had before, so even though they're also more expensive, it's definitely worth sacrificing smaller tier units to replace it with larger tier ones. Because it means that you need to heal them less, you get access to better damage types, and of course their abilities. Like for instance, these guys also take 15% less damage because Adam and Skin, but I can't remember. Like, it's basically like a faction. All the units that are blue-green mix, they get that ability. even their buildings, which is pretty cool, like this one. And now we want to get fire, but I think we might be able to take out the next encampment. The main challenge with skirmish is to evaluate when to attack, because some maps are really devious in how they're laid out, as it's not always completely clear which direction you need to go in order to get your power wells. Because I could have just gone straight down here, but then, you know, I wouldn't have all these resources backing me up now, you know. But yeah, there's like a lot to learn in this game and get good at, and I'm not the best myself, to be fair. Oh yeah, I forget, when one of my elementals die, they also put down a healing area of effect. But yeah, I can put down this elemental here, but as you see, like, it's got this, yeah, I think they call it dazed. It still works just fine, like it does full amount of damage, it just... No wait, does it even do that? I think it does, yeah it does. It's just the amount of hit points that's halved. Let's build a fire orb as the third one. Build a breeding grounds. This building does so that units placed down around it will cost 25% less. As far as I know, it also means if they die, they don't return, like, you know, the full cost to the power pool. I don't think you can, like, really generate power out of thin air like that. But yeah, we have 16.5 minutes to defeat all the enemies on this map, which is partially why you don't want to rush it, because if you rush in and you don't have critical mass, you end up getting curb stomped. And in worst cases, enemies will also send out units retaliating, taking out your power wells, and if you don't have enough stored power, you might be completely screwed, because even though you get it back from your void power, if it doesn't happen quick enough, you know, you can't regain that critical mass. On top of that, your cards also have limited charges, which means that once you've cast them a certain amount of time in a map, they go on cooldown. Yeah, sister, you're in the US, so yeah, you should sleep. But, I mean, if you're curious about BattleForge, honestly, just download it, give it a go. It's not a strategy game for everyone, but I mean, it's free. I think it looks pretty good for a game that was like last played in my case back in 2013. As far as I remember. I still got it on my Steam's game list too. Let's see here. Just in case you were wondering. 2012, sorry, my bad. It used to be on Steam, but when the service got shut down, you know, no longer available. It used to also be a thing where the game itself, you had to buy the game actually, and then on top of that, you had to buy the cards next to it too. Think, you know, you have to put yourself in the time zone of like 2012, where free-to-play games wasn't as much a thing yet. It was only, they were like sort of still figuring it out, you know? So it's kind of expected that the game didn't really succeed. I wonder if a game like this would even be feasible nowadays, in modern times. Okay, we want to take that building out. Because this will respawn units, so if we don't focus down that building, we might just be overrun. Healing spells, so good. It's not too crazy, but it's pretty damn good. I also have this stone shell, which just reduces the amount of damage they take. And then the more enemies, the less damage, if I remember correctly too. Alright, bye Sistra. Thanks for sticking around for a little while. You get some sleep though. Okay, so we can get the last orb here, which can either be... No, okay, this is my main, I guess. So this has to be darkness. Darkness. Or shadow. Oh yeah, also the void power system. So because of the way it works, it's also an idea to remove buildings that are far behind your defensive lines. Simply because any building that you have standing around is just reserving power. So by destroying them, you do get that back as well, you know. Cool. Okay, so we can make some big units now. You'll sleep when you're... Wait, what? When you're old? No. I don't know what that emoji says. So I should probably emphasize that minimizing BattleForge, you can do it, but it is... Like, I haven't found a better way to do it, but it does seem to have to be played in full screen mode at the moment. Actually, wait, there is a way around that. I just remember, you can add games to Steam and then use their Steam's launch options to force it to launch into window mode. Like borderless window mode, I'm pretty sure. Bloodhorn's pretty cool. It's a bandit type unit. They gain life steal, sorry. And this giant worm is just my in-game damage dealer, pretty much. Turtles dancing while carrying a coffin. Oh, okay. Ah, I see that now. You sleep when you're unalive, I guess, is what you mean. But yeah, good night. Cool. What about you, Loki? Is this the kind of game that you would be curious about? Or play even? Still though, graphics wise, being like such an old game, I think it still holds up pretty well. They did a pretty good job at making really good units back in the day. And as far as I've been able to tell, I haven't looked it up still, but it does feel like the game engine that they're using is similar, like maybe a variant or some kind of in-between of the one used for like Battle for Middle-earth or Command & Conquer Generals. Because you do have units that walk in battalions and are large single ones. But then the terrain is more reminiscent of the more modern Red Alert 3. So I'm curious if it's like a mix of both somewhere in between. Only seen a few minutes of it. Okay. Graphics are pretty. Yeah, and back in the day, my computer could not run it at 60 FPS. But these days, no problem. No problem whatsoever. Which is a pretty important thing for a game that's like a strategy game to run smoothly. Oh shit. Okay. Let's get our units in position here. Put down some buffs. Tainted Enrage. So I can basically activate a buff on these guys, which reduces their hit point by 15, but makes them deal 100% more damage for 15 seconds. Pretty decent deal when you have, you know, healing spells in your deck. And they have lifesteal too, but it's not as strong unless you have like life healing abilities. I mean, it's not really an issue these days because you can pay to win. It's like sort of RNG based, but there is also a marketplace that is accessible, so you can buy cards from other players. And all the BattleForge points, as they're called, are earned through either objectives or quests or whatever. They have like different systems in place. So there's not really like... It's not really an issue, to be honest. You can't even pay to win. It's not a thing in this. It used to be a thing, I can't even remember what the card packs costed back in the day, but I'm willing to think that it was somewhere around the $5 to $10 per card pack or something like that. They were pretty expensive back then. No, you can't pay to win. There's no way to do it. All the things are earned through playing the game. And again, because you can earn BattleForge points and there's player trading involved, you can sell and buy cards on the auction house to get the things that you actually want. Getting the BattleForge points needed for that through like just regular play. Also, if you're into PvP and you only want to PvP this game in its entirety, you can do that without even needing to acquire the cards. They made it so that PvP basically gives you access to every single card in the game fully upgraded. But it's, you know, still a separate mode. So if you're just in for that part and not the PvE, which in my opinion, like, PvE is a big part of this game. Especially co-op. That you don't like either? Which you don't like either. Because I do mention a lot of things. Okay, let's first oink those bastards. Oh, but that's only for PvP though. And the reason why is because people played this game in the past, right? And in the past it was like diabolical how PvP worked, because it was still separated back in the day. But in like a not so good way. There we go. PvP used to be a thing where... Oh yeah, also, let's take one thing at a time. So I just beat this PvE skirmish match, which gives me gold coins and BattleForge points, okay? Coins are used for upgrading your cards, and BattleForge points are used for either buying boosters or cards directly from the auction house. What are you saying? Force balancing is the new Pokemon games. They level all Pokemon to level 50, meaning there's no reward for effort. Yeah, okay, so the reason why they did it for this game, for the PvP aspect, is that it used to be a thing where your PvE deck and your PvP deck were separated, and there were PvP seasons, meaning that you would buy boosters, sort of like a draft, for your PvP deck, and then only the cards that you bought specifically for PvP could be used for that part of the game. If you wanted to, you could take cards out of your PvP deck into your PvE, but every time a new season would start, you would be forced to buy new cards. Yes. And that was their attempt at trying to monetize the game. Basically. Because, I mean, once you have all the cards that you need in terms of playing the game, there's not really much reason to, like, spend money on it in the original game, right? But I can show you how it works in terms of getting BattleForge points and all that stuff now, which is way more generous, or very generous, I would say, more than, you know, really necessary. But you have like different systems. Okay, so every daily reset, you have these here. So there's basically like a tank that fills up with BattleForge points that you can earn by just playing the game, separated into two groups. So there's the daily boost, which gets depleted very quickly, and then there's the reserve, which gets depleted very slowly. Reserve is basically for people that play hours of this game on end every single day. That's mainly for the hardcore people. I've not managed to exhaust my reserve yet. And every day I think it's like 200 and something BattleForge points that you can gain just by playing for a few minutes. Well, I guess like half an hour to an hour or something. Minutes is not really cutting it because maps do take time to play. And you can obtain those by either playing whichever mode you want, as far as I know. There's no like limitation. Another system is that they've got these quests in here. So for instance, I can obtain 75 BattleForge points by winning a specific 2-player map. And these are also repopulated every day. I don't remember how many quests you can have active at a time, but it does end up being a scrolling list. So you can have quite a lot of them. And it can be anything from play X amount of cards of a certain color in PvE matches, or like, you know, this one, expend your power by using cards across campaign or randomly generated matches of difficulty 5 or higher. So, you know, there's a lot of sounds like something that would fail. Yeah. Sounds it's exactly what happened, right? So it's exactly what happened. So the first thing that you can do is achievements, which are things that are always available since the beginning of the game, and they sort of evolve. Now, what it, for instance, means is if you want to play, if you're starting out, basically, these are a good way to get cards for your specific colors of choice. So, for instance, there's one for each different color saying, oh, win matches where you start your first monument being Shadow, where the next milestone is an Unholy Hero card specifically. But as you get into the end, you also get boosters. There's also like more generic ones. Completing daily quests reward you with general boosters. PvE rank, which is just playing the game. And just opening boosters themselves can give you more boosters in the long run. So there's like plenty of ways to get a ton of cards. Alright? Even just completing the entire campaign on standard will yield you free boosters, which is probably what, you know, most people should consider doing if they've never played it before. Because there are a lot of campaign missions, and I think that the BattleForge universe is pretty interesting. There's some story here that is, you know, it's decent. It's nothing too crazy, but it's pretty decent. But yeah, you can basically get all the cards you'd want to. And in terms of booster packs, even if you play for 45 minutes each day, you can also get a 100 BattleForge point booster just to sort of reward you for being more dedicated to the game. And there are different boosters now as well. Back in the day, I don't remember if these were all a thing, but you can, like, for instance, if I only want green cards, I can buy a booster pack that will only give me green cards. So yeah. Problem with monetizing games these days is that subscription games are hard to launch, and unsubscription games are always limiting the experience or just selling skins, and skins aren't a very solid experience. So you're referring to games like Lost Ark, for instance, which does exactly that, as far as I can tell. I think they do more than skins, but it seems to be the main thing. It's completely free to play as well. What really shot BattleForge in its own foot is that it also cost a premium price back in the day. You had to buy the game first and then buy the cards on top of that. I do believe when you bought the game, you did actually get boosters though. Like, I mean, they didn't start you without cards, but first taste wasn't free, basically. So there's that. The other way that you can buy cards again is through the auction house, okay? And you can list your own things in here too if you want. So if you buy like a booster pack and you get like a really valuable card, let's try and think here. How expensive is a shaman again? Yeah, like if you get a shaman, which is only an uncommon card but frequently used, you know, those cards are not cheap. But when you're starting out, in the same way, you can also get certain cards fairly cheaply, depending on the use. So it's not just the rarity that matters, it's also the usage. And there are uses for duplicate cards too. So when I right click this is where the upgrade of the cards, this is like how you improve your deck, and this is the main reason why PvP is separate from PvE, because upgrading cards like this gives you a massive advantage on top of just having specific cards. Since this requires a lot of playing the game in order to get all these upgrades. Whoa, okay, I'll read that in a moment. But the general gist is that, as I said earlier, gold is used to buy these upgrades if you want to claim them directly, and the other way of obtaining them is that each and every one of these campaign maps has an internal loot table of specific cards that can have their upgrades drop, basically. But because it's RNG, the chance of you getting exactly what you need is really low, and only when you get duplicates does it get converted into gold. So far, the fastest way to level up your deck has, to me, just seems like playing PV scenarios, because then you can just go into the claim menu and buy exactly the upgrades you need. Now, a little bit of a PSA, of course. The more rare a card is, the more expensive it also is to upgrade. Yeah. It's like, for instance, a Bloodhorn tier 3 upgrade will set me back 7,500. The upgrades are unique to each card though as well. And it's not just a matter of increased damage or hit points always. Like, for instance, just to give you a really good example, the Wheel of Gifts, the first upgrade gives it an entire third ability that you can choose. Getting it to level 3 will reduce its cost, like its power cost. And generally speaking, like, some units will just gain completely new abilities as they level up. So upgrades are pretty important. Spells like this, for instance, will increase the amount of transformed targets, and eventually the cost will also be reduced, right? So essentially meaning that you can cast it sooner and more frequently. Consumable unlockables are the only viable non-sub methods. So by unlockables, you mean you provide a full game with 1, 2, 3 types, characters or classes or playmodes, whatever makes sense for the game. And then you provide more ways to play the game by purchase, or a sub to unlock everything. And you gotta make something like the audible solution, whatever that means, where you don't lose what you've unlocked when you stop subbing. Don't lock people in. Let me try and think of an example of that. For consumables, you think so long as everybody has the same access, but by purchasing, it's just easier to get them. It's completely fair for an unsub game. Let me think here. So Lord of the Rings Online has a free-to-play, switch to a free-to-play subscription model, where, according to my mom, it's like if you are subscribed, like run the subscription service, you get a in-game currency every month to use in the game on top of like additional perks. Whereas alternatively, you'd have to buy these points directly at a higher rate, like they'd be more expensive. And this currency is used for a different, like, couple things. I'm not too much into it, but when I played the last time, you needed currency in order to unlock future quest lines in the game, which once unlocked were available to all your characters. But it did mean that if you were completely free to play, and once they switched to that, you would have to do a lot of grinding to earn those points as a free to play account. So by subscribing, you got to basically play the rest of the game earlier, so there was less of a grind involved. It's the pay to skip mentality versus pay to win, which can sometimes be a pretty hard, like, gray zone to walk, but I digress. Affordable, you pay X a month, get 1 consumable credit, and you can buy 1 book. Oh, for Audible. Okay, so you meant that's what you meant by Audible, the platform. Okay, for audiobooks. Yeah, but you can also not sub and just buy the book at its price. Cancel your subscription, you still keep the rights to use that audiobook, thus promoting continued subscription. Yeah, I guess it's a similar business model for Lord of the Rings Online then. because, you know, you get to keep your quest access, main quest line access for all your accounts as one thing. Beyond that, I'm a little bit unsure of how it all works. But yeah, I mean, this is completely free and it's a fan revival and I'm just in for it, you know. They've also added new features beyond new cards, by the way. As far as I know, the achievement system and the quest system, I don't remember if the quest system was in before as well, but I believe these are like, if not implemented, at least tweaked on their behalf, right? Like they did a lot of work on this. They also implemented a feature where, I haven't tried it yet, but you can basically take cards in here and reforge them into new ones that might be more interesting. Personally, I'm more into the idea of just having more cards to choose from, so that different maps might benefit from different strategies. You know, it's not every single map that you need defensive structures in big quantities or really fast units or something like that, for instance. So you can vary your strategy a little bit. Also, there is a use for duplicate cards. That's where in the upgrade menu here. So the second line down here is for your duplicate cards, and what it does is that it doesn't improve the unit particular, like specifically, but it adds more charges to the card. So it's +4, +3, +3. Not so much useful for one-orb units when you've got a deck using heals, because you only rarely, like, once you get used to the game anyway, you rarely ever lose out on all your units. But for things such as this Razor Leaf, it starts with only one charge. So as soon as I start playing it, it's already on cooldown. So having more charges here means that I can spam down like a larger army in a shorter time period. For instance, the Giant Worm here has 2 additional charges, right? Maybe I should actually get the last upgrade for that one. Or maybe I should just get my Spearmen up, honestly. Because that'll give them more damage. Bloop. Yes. Burwas. Now let's skip those for now. There's also my heal spell, which I use very frequently. I mean, this is more healing, which, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want that, right? Would also be really nice to get Wheel of Gifts level 3 to reduce the power cost. I think this card has a similar effect, right? No, not quite. Yeah, this card is really cool because it upgrades the cost reduction that it provides, so it goes up to 25%. Which is also why this is one of those only cards that I've got at level 3. Duration, power cost reduction, and cooldown. Ah yes, that's true. Not every card is immediately reusable, even if you have multiple charges. That's also a thing. So like for instance, Surge of Light here is immediately reusable as it says in the card, whereas Stone Shell here is reusable every 20 seconds. But what are you saying? So for example, for a game such as WoW, you could make 2 to 3 classes and races, and then as you release, just sell the new ones at a price or provide a subscription that unlocks the entire game. If you should up your subscription, you shouldn't lose your progress after a certain amount of time. I mean, they're already kind of doing that because they have expansion packs. So, right? And I don't know, because I've never really been in a situation where it's been relevant, but what actually happens in World of Warcraft if you don't buy an expansion pack? Can you still continue to play the game when a new one is released, or are you forced into buying an expansion pack just to keep playing on your existing characters even if you're not interested in the new content? I've always wondered about that. Like, you know, if you only had access to the baseline game without any of the expansions, would you still be able to play it? Let's do one more. Do we want to do this deck? Hold on. I'm ready to that. Because I had some other quests, didn't I? Fire Monument in campaign PV. Okay. So this is where I have like the same deck, but it's a fire start, so it's a little bit different, but still very similar. There we go. So the different colors in BattleForge kind of have or are associated with different playstyles. Green being very preservative of the units, you know, you want to put down more expensive units up front, which are more durable and does a little bit more damage, but you want to keep them alive using your heal spells. In contrast, Shadow put down basically really cheap units that have effects that are basically suicidal for temporary gains. Red, they gain destruction spells and just really like explosions. But also some of the units, especially some of the newer ones that were added to the game, because they did expansions to this before it was shut down. But yeah, some of the newer units also have pretty cool effects. Like these nomads. When there's 3 or more together, they gain hit point regeneration, so I don't really have to worry as much about them dying. So I can basically use the regeneration combined with a destruction spell to take out these small initial groups. Now, which way do we need to go? I have a feeling we need to go right. You can sort of use the silhouette of the... Oh, nope, not that way. Of the level design to figure out which way to go. But if there's this many units in that direction, it's better to just retreat and go in another way. Like, don't feel like you're forced into an engagement. Okay, I might have to actually take some of these guys out. Fortunately, these dudes have oh, that's bullshit. They do have a ranged ability, which just uses power to throw a lance. Wait, how are these guys not dead yet? What? Oh, that's BS. Should just have done that, honestly. Let's go down here and see what we have. Yeah, this is more like it. Eruption also knocks... What? Small unit? Yeah, small units back, so... It prevents enemies from retaliating for a little while, too. Not as strong as, like, freezing them or paralyzing them or anything like that, but it's pretty decent. Along the maps, they also sometimes have these gold chests, just as an added bonus. And some objectives require you to collect the gold chest, so it's always a good idea to do that too. Now, the skirmish maps are very much RNG based, so the chance of encountering the exact same layout twice in a row is basically nothing. Like, I don't think I've ever had that happen to me. Because even like this one compared to the other one is a completely different biome, if you will. The unit compositions will also vary. Some maps will have bosses in them, which others won't. So there's just like a lot of variation to the skirmish mode, which means that though it's a very simple mode, it is randomly generated, so you know, it's not as... doesn't become as stale as quickly. Though, you know, I don't really want to play skirmish all day. It's like the kind of game which I'll pop out once in a while and then play a couple skirmish matches when I'm feeling like it. And only these days lately have I been like into a BattleForge mood, so... Okay. Let's see here. So I can make my fire stalkers now. These are those raptors I mentioned earlier. They make a couple of these. So they're swift when not in ranged mode. And for free they can switch into ranged mode, which gives them a siege attack that does increased damage against buildings. And they can also shoot really, really far. But, you know, the projectiles they lob, they have like a fuse timer, if you will. Oop, oop. That said, the units are pretty decent. If I remember correctly, it does knock back small units, so it's not the end of the world. And we can put those units in like a stasis mode until we've taken out all the other units. And we can also switch these into melee and help out the nomads. When they are in range modes though, they do become slow. Or, not really slow, they become normal speed. But it's a pretty good mix this because since the nomads are already swift themselves, it's pretty useful to have them be able to follow along at the same pace. Because otherwise I found that if you try and mix swift and non-swift units, you know, you don't really get any use out of that ability because you end up having to wait for the slow pokes anyway. Okay, so first is good. Want a breeding pool, grounds, whatever. So now the question is if I need to go up or to the side here. Well, since these guys are swift, they're also decent scouting units. Yeah, fine. Put those in range mode. There was some defensive towers there, so I wasn't too keen on going in on that quite yet. Good thing I didn't sacrifice my units just yet either. Let's see, the third orb I need has to be green. Yes. No, wait. Should probably have been blue. Now it's gonna be green. Wait, can I... Okay. A little bit of a cost associated. It's like, this deck is a little bit funky because I need 2 green orbs in order to put down a Wheel of Gifts. But I also have a card that is free orb, but requires one of them to be blue. And I do have some defenses as well, which also all require a blue orb. So it's a matter of, do I want map-wide buffs earlier, or do I want defenses? And this spell specifically is pretty good too. Usually the consensus is that you want this spell over here because it's pretty damn good. Now what I can do, of course, is to build a monument, get the buildings that I want, like for instance the Wheel of Gifts, and then rebuild the monument as a different color just to replace it with something else. So for instance, I could technically be cheeky, build a second green orb, put down a Wheel of Gifts, and then destroy the orb afterwards to replace it with a blue one to get both the map-wide passive buff, but also have access to other defenses and the stone shell. Because in effect, you know, I only need so many of these, so once they're put down, as long as they're in a safe location, I don't really need to worry about them whatsoever. But I think this is pretty good. Do want to go this way first though, get this stuff up here taken care of. Because this is a one-way road. Actually, let's put down one of these. Just as a contingency plan. Because it does seem like they keep coming up from the northern part, which tells me... Oh no, it's not a one-way base. God damn it. Oh, that is annoying. This map layout is slightly ticking me off. You know what, let's put down some defenses here. Yeah. Good thing I've got these tunnel networks. It does use up an entire slot on your in your deck, but being able to teleport across the map with at least ground units is pretty damn useful. Maybe if I take out the base to the right here, I won't be attacked from this direction at least. Let's take out this tower because that one's gonna hurt a little bit. Also, these unit spawning buildings will only replenish units. They won't like continuously produce stuff. Which means that if you completely destroy it before starting to attack the units themselves, you know, they're not just gonna get replenished. Because if you do it in the opposite way around, you might take out the units, but then they'll immediately start respawning again if you're unlucky. And that's why like spells such as Curse of Oink or Freeze or something is so damn useful, because you can basically lock the units in place and not have to worry about them and then take out the buildings first.
Your forces are under attack.
As they say, logistics is an army's lifeline or something like that. I'm curious to see if going up here is going to be a good idea. Or if I do have to take the other path around. Because there might be a base in this direction that I can't take on. Nah, it's fine. Let's put down this. Some healing. And because the Curse of Orange sort of dispels if I attack them, I do prioritize the buildings as well for that reason. Once the worst is over, they can just like attack whatever though. Oh shit. There's a lot of guys in this direction. Where are they all coming from? There has to be like a unit production building up there. Very good. The swamp drakes are also pretty cool. They can put units to sleep, which is like a completely third way of making units stuck. Of course, sleep is slightly less powerful than any of the other ones because it does make the unit wake up if they take any kind of damage, so it's important to keep that in mind. But it's a pretty decent way of getting like a, because it's also really cheap, right? And the main issue is that whenever you do put out something like Curse of Oink on, there's like a small cooldown before you can reapply it. But if you mix different crowd control effects like that into your army composition and deck composition, I guess, it does allow you to completely stun lock enemies for almost indefinitely in some cases. And the third orb has to be green.
A monument is under attack.
Ah, for fuck's sake. Why did I destroy that fucking teleport? I guess I didn't anticipate that they would come down there. No. It's fine. We will rebuild. Swamp drakes are also pretty interesting because they are large units that do XL damage. Which means, as far as I know, they deal increased damage towards XL units. For reference, the giant worm that I have is an XL unit that does large damage. And there are mixes and matches like that. There's also certain instances where units won't have like a damage type because it's tied to like an ability of some sort. Wait, they're also attacking me here still? What the... Leave me alone.
A power well has
God
been
damn it.
destroyed.
Dude, these guys won't fucking leave me alone. This level's layout is kicking my ass pretty much.
Your forces are under attack.
Don't have time for all this. Haven't even picked up this chest yet. God fucking damn it. Because the issue is also, if I go into a fight, I have to consider how much power I have available. Because if I don't have enough for Stone Shell, for instance, and potentially a heal, I might end up in a situation where all my units end up dying before I get to put anything down. And healing spells are pretty strong, but they're also expensive. So if you also want large units, you know, timing is key. Fortunately though, once you get into free orb units, it's like, okay, a couple of free orb units can sort of make up for like just having one larger one. Not always, but sometimes they can. It's a little bit worse when you have really small units though. Let's take our flyers over. Just to take out that building. There we go. We want to get these whisperers out of the way too, because they prevent me from casting spells if they get to do their thing. They also, if I remember correctly, prevent range units from attacking altogether, so don't want any of that. Ah, fuck. Yeah, they just did that thing.
A power well is under attack.
I'm not allowed to attack. A little bit of a problem when all your units are ranged. Yeah, they can't even use their abilities.
A monument is under attack.
What? Come on. Let's just put down something temporary here. Should be able to take care of it.
A monument has been destroyed.
God fucking damn it. Of course they would. Of course they freaking would. And that was a green one. There we go. Not allowed to build any monuments when there's enemies nearby. You guys are fine? I hope. Need to make sure. 5.5 minutes basically left. Okay. It's these units that are fucking screwing me over. They probably got it. Yeah, they should be fine. Doing some heals. Yeah, that big boy is causing trouble. Come the reinforcements. Nah, we got this. Easy peasy lemon and squeezy. So yeah, lots of coins. This is also like one of the quickest way to level up like all your low tier units, which I honestly should do. I don't even know why. Should I keep the Sunstriders in here even? The reason why these guys are pretty cool is because I've got the suppression fire ability, which essentially disables an enemy building's attack and abilities completely for 15 seconds. At a very, very long range too. Much longer than their default attack range. The issue is that they're really squishy, and if you play them out in the middle of the field, you know, they need to get rid of the summoning sickness before they can use their ability. Nope. I did also add Skyfire Drakes in here just as an earlier game flying unit, but if you look at how little hit points they have in comparison to the free op version, but they're almost as expensive, yeah, it's not it's not great, but it is an earlier game flying unit. Does also get cost reduction, but yeah, like compare this upgrade, right? 20 hit points, 40 hit points. Wow. Compare that to something a bit more chunky like this, right? The upgrades have a much bigger impact on certain cards than others. Should I increase the giant worm? It's either that or starting to get the upgrades for the Wheel of Gifts. But I'm only really interested in the third one, and that's like super expensive. But it's also very, very good. Magma Hurlers is pretty much like a standard unit for me, so maybe 140 hit points, that's actually a lot. Maybe I should just get this one. Yeah, screw it, let's get that. Because this is like a card that I use universally. There we go. It's them fully upgraded. I could also do these. Oh right, I did get the upgrade card, I just couldn't afford upgrading it. What does tier 3 cost? I'll be able to buy the upgrade card but then not do the actual upgrade. It's also like hit points on these, I mean it's cool when you use them in melee mode, but that's more like a contingency plan or whatever than not. The main use of these is to use them as siege, after all. At least in my strat, so not super great. Getting more hit points on my towers might also be good. But it's like, you know, upgrading the cannon tower gives you damage instead. And if you look at their stats, they start with way more hit points. The main difference being that they can't attack air units. But the weaker tower, which can attack air units, in my case, is also more expensive. So it's like it can be a bit hard sometimes to figure out which cards you should focus on upgrading and all that stuff. But I mean, it is a deck building game, so not too surprising. And there's also a lot of cards that I just don't have, of course. Most of the things that I do have are all green too. But I digress. Anyways, I think that's enough BattleForge for today. Do want to switch into some Factorio, because it's like, as I said earlier, doing a few PvE matches and such is pretty much how I enjoy playing this game. Get some daily rewards and then put it down. Playing with people is way more enjoyable though, in my opinion. The 12-player maps can be especially crazy because well, it's not as crazy as you might think. It basically splits you up into 3 teams of 4, but you all have separate objectives that you need to accomplish. If I remember, one of the maps is literally like, it's the same map for all 3 teams, but it's set across 3 different time periods in the storyline of the canon campaign, meaning that one team will be in the past or something, one will be in the present, and another will be in the future. And each team has to work together in order to accomplish a goal that requires some time traveling shenanigans or something. If I remember correctly, it's like a unit that gets sent between the different time periods, and it just really like gets wild with it. Okay. But I do want to dive back into some Victorio though. Before I do that, let's just do a quick split for the VOD, and I will be back.